In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to perform the time slicing function on a sample. First, we're going to click on the menu button, and again we're going to go to P2 Loop Edit, and from there select the drop down list and scroll over to Time Slice. It's going to run through some processes in order to calculate some beat points, and it comes up with this pop-up screen here that tells you what the beats are and the source BPM. You can see that that's the same as it was previously whenever we did the time stretch function. And we're going to press OK here. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to press Save. And now it's going to ask me if I want to set this sliced sample into the sequencer. And this is probably what you want to do at this point, because it's going to allow you to set up it's going to program the notes that play that sample to that BPM when you copy that over to a song in the sequencer. So again, it's setting up what the BPM is. You can change the BPM of that song, or you can go in and select another BPM for the song once you toggle over to sequence mode. So you can do that here, you can do that now, it doesn't matter. It's going to associate this multi-sample with a program, and by default it's going to select whatever empty program is empty in bank E, and it's already doing that there. It's setting it to MS-05, and it's going to ask you if you want to set this to the track or if you want to set it to a pattern. I find this a little bit easier to manage if you set it to a track, and of course you can more easily and quickly preview this. Otherwise you'd have to go into that sequence and assign a pattern to the sequence, and there'd be just a few more steps involved with that. Unless of course you wanted to assign this sliced drum sample and set it up to be an RPPR, which could be a nice feature. Next, it's going to ask us which song it's going to be placed in, which track, and what the time signature is. It's also going to ask us what measure it's going to be placed in. Its default set to 1, and the number of repeats or times that it will be placed in the song. We'll just go ahead and leave that to 1, or no, let's go ahead and set that to 2. That way we can hear that it loops on time and that it matches up okay whenever we preview it. Next, press Save, and of course is now writing that into that song in sequence mode. And you can see these vertical slice points here too that indicate where the beat was sliced up at. Now let's toggle over to sequence mode by pressing the sequence button. Or first let's exit out of this pop-up menu and press the SEQ sequence button to go over to sequence. And you'll see that track 1 here does have that program assigned. It has bank E00 new MS-01 set in there. And so at this point, also we want to notice that it did set the tempo of this song to be what the calculated tempo or BPM of that sample was. Went ahead and set that to 84. So next, let's press the Start-Stop button on the sequencer controls, and we'll be able to preview this sample being played in time slice. Go ahead and press Stop here and locate to jump back to the beginning of the sequence again. Now, one thing I want to point out is let's press the menu button and go to P5 Track Edit in sequence mode. You'll see the shaded blocks here. They indicate that there's no information there. And it actually is no information. If we press the drop down menu and go to Event Edit, and let's just view the notes here and press OK, you'll see the individual notes that are playing sliced samples. Of course, you can edit these notes that are playing those samples just like you would edit notes that you would play. Let's go ahead and exit out of this. And I want to show you an example of how this works when you speed up and slow down the tempo. Let's toggle to the play loop, and let's set this to loop at 2 measures. And now we're going to adjust this BPM, and you'll see that it shifts those notes around to where it plays to match up to the BPM without changing the pitch of the individual slices or drum sounds. Now it's got kind of a little bit of a hesitation in there, and there's some ways that you can adjust this within the sampling mode to where you're going to get a cleaner loop there without having a large margin of error. The original BPM was set to 84, and when you jump all the way up to the speed of around 120, that's a pretty large increase. So sometimes it might be best to do a sustained stretch and then fine-tune the BPM by doing a time stretch. So sometimes, depending on the complexity of the loop and the different harmonics that are within the drum loop, it would be best to do those with different orders. But I want to show you that sensitivity adjust in the time stretch. Toggle back to the sampling menu, and then click on the menu button and go to the loop edit section again. And then press the drop down menu and go over to time slice again. Pull up this command. And we're going to press OK again. It's going to slice this as well. A couple of controls here that's on the pop-up menu whenever the Triton first adjusts and makes corrections and sensitivity adjustments to detect where these different slices of this loop should be sliced up. One of the main things that it adjusts is the sensitivity, or it'll take a threshold level of volume within this wave and assign a slice right before those spikes. So if you increase or decrease this sensitivity here, let's say you increase the sensitivity, you're going to get more samples cut up, and you can see those at the top. So the more samples that you cut up, the more accurate sounding your slices will be whenever those are imported into sequence mode. And of course, the lesser the sensitivity, the less samples you'll have, or the lesser the number of slices that will be created.